Happy Thursday here on Golic and Golic. After surviving the initial wave of firings, the Dolphins' Mike McDaniel becomes the latest head coach let go, now adding Miami to the mix of open teams. Would John Harbaugh actually be interested? And where does McDaniel fit into the picture going forward? More like Trae Young, am I right? One-time Hawk star now gets to go check out the nation's capital and lose games with the Wizards. Is there any hope for a career revival in D.C.? And does this pave the way for big moves this summer in Atlanta? And speaking of big, we'll talk to one wildcard team's ace in the hole. Texans star wide receiver Nico Collins going to join us ahead of their matchup on Monday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. To finish off a robust weekend of football that begins tonight, Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Charles Robinson going to stop by, talk about some of these coaching moves. Tim Murray going to give us a look at some of the best bets going into the college football playoff tonight. Dad, it begins in earnest. The Fiesta Bowl, where Ole Miss and Miami going to square off. Two of the more interesting stories, I think, of this tournament for college football that kick off a weekend of football that has this game tonight, the Peach Bowl tomorrow, and then a full wall-to-wall bit of wild card football starting Saturday, Sunday, and into that Monday night game. Feels good. I feel alive again after a week having a yap about the portal and people getting fired.
Yeah, it does. But I would say enjoy it. I would imagine this is the last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday we're going to get football. We're starting to wind down in the lasts of football, which is exciting because it's the most important games in football. Yet just off in the distance, we see the end of football season, and that just brings a small tear to everybody's eye.
You're going to miss this. You're going to want this back. And so hold on to the good times while you're still in them right now. Unfortunately, the good times came to a screeching halt for Mike McDaniel in Miami. Let go after the Dolphins' 7-10 season this year that saw Tua Tagovailoa benched late in the season in favor of Quinn Ewers. He likely searching for a new home and a fresh start, as will Mike McDaniel, whose tenure in Miami came in with plenty of fanfare, initially able to revive Tua Tagovailoa coming off the Brian Flores tenure with the Dolphins, had great success in an offense that at times looked like one of the best in the NFL with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but lately had devolved into a lot more difficulty finding that consistency, especially under center. McDaniel leaves this team proud of what they did together, grateful, I know, leaving a great impression on a lot of people down there. But we get two more names to add to the mix on both sides, right? To add one to the pile of coaches that are prospective head coaches for a lot of the open jobs. And another job in Miami now joins Baltimore as the most recent entries that make 8 open head coaching jobs this offseason. So let's start there with the team. Now that Miami's in the mix for this, where do they fall in the hierarchy of open jobs right now around the league?
Well, again, we know what the at least the most important question is. You talk about ownership, of course, but you talk about the quarterback, and they're in flux, right? I mean, with Tua. As a matter of fact, you know, they have a roster with a lot of their core under contract for a couple of more years, but Tyreek Hill and Tua together are $108 million in the salary cap next year. So they've got to deal with those two issues. They have a quarterback issue. So again, you look at all the teams involved. Giants don't, Tennessee doesn't, Arizona does, Atlanta doesn't. Cleveland, we're not sure. We think they probably do. Las Vegas needs a quarterback. So that's basically what you build it on, right? You can like the core of a team, but a coach who has a choice, like a John Harbaugh, maybe like a Kevin Stefanski, and we'll see what coordinators jump out, or former coaches like Mike McCarthy, Jason Garrett is supposedly getting an interview with Tennessee. Let's see if there's more teams. But coaches, the lead coaches who get a choice, are certainly going to look for stability, or at least the start of youth at the quarterback position where they believe that's going to be the quarterback of the future. And Miami is certainly a team in flux there.
Yeah, I still think it's in the top half of the jobs that we've talked about. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't supplant the situations where you know you got a quarterback. And you also right now have an organization that does have a chance, Dad, to stick the landing with the clean slate. Like, a lot of these can get muddy when you don't have quarterbacks, GMs, and coach on the same time. And Miami is in the midst of trying to search for a GM. They completed an initial round of GM interviews that now will lead to 4 follow-up in-person interviews with interim GM Champ Kelly, San Francisco 49ers Director of Scouting and Football Ops Josh Williams, Packers VP of Personnel John Eric Sullivan, and then the Chargers Assistant GM Chad Alexander. So remember, Mike McDaniel had said on Monday he planned to be a part of those conversations and interviews with the GM. On Tuesday, he met with the owner, Stephen Ross, and now here on Thursday, he's out of a job. And so you do wonder if after some time to digest, looking around at the candidates in the landscape, Miami thought, hey, what a better time than now to maybe try and go for the clean sweep here and start this off clean. So on the other side of this, then, Mike McDaniel came into this with all the offensive fanfare, a guy from that Shanahan tree, one of the best run designers in the NFL, and initially had revived Tua, had this offense up and running, and injuries at that position, an offensive line that until this year really hadn't had a lot of bite to it. Do you see him as a head coach in this cycle, Dad, or is he one of the guys destined to return to life as a coordinator?
I think he's destined to return to life as a coordinator until another cycle. I don't think. Now, a lot depends on interviews of potential first-time coaches or even coaches who have been there before and how those interviews go. We know McDaniel's a little quirky, right? So it would take a certain ownership to buy into what he's selling. I think he has a good chance to be a head coach again. I don't know about this cycle, though. More names coming up. More names, is Jim Schwartz, the Browns D coordinator, Vance Joseph, Denver's D coordinator. Like I said, Mike McCarthy seems to be back in the mix again. So we're not sure what guys who have been coaches, who are coordinators, coming back to being coaches again. I think for sure 2 coaches that were fired that will be in this rotation will be Harbaugh and Stefanski. If I were to say a next one, maybe McDaniel, maybe Raheem Morris, possibly. But I think some ownership will look for some new blood out there. And certainly Miami looks to be a decent landing spot, but I agree in the upper half of jobs that are available.
Yeah, Miami claims, by the way, the reporting that there was no contact with John Harbaugh prior to this, which, okay.
Yeah.
Sure, pumpkin.
Of course they do.
I still question how much John Harbaugh would want to sign up for what Miami's offering right now versus what he get, being that he's going to be the most in-demand, in-vogue candidate of all this bunch here. And Mike McDaniel, to your point, it's interesting hearing you bring up those names because we're getting ready to go through a head coaching hiring cycle where who's one of the names that's rolled off the tongue pretty quick for a lot of people? Cliff Kingsbury, him and Washington just part ways after this season where the quarterback was injured. So many of their core offensive pieces were kind of disastrous, but Cliff went and did the thing where he spent time as a coordinator in his life post-head coaching and now comes out washed on the other side after the glow of last season and has people ready to potentially go for a bite at the apple there. While meanwhile, Mike McDaniel, Raheem Morris, on paper, not all that different in terms of what their head coaching tenures look like. So you're right, though. That tends to be how this goes. And I will just say, when we talk about, hey, Stefanski, John Harbaugh, the bell of the ball for the coaching stuff, Mike McDaniel, I have to imagine some people are going to be bending over backwards to try and make him their offensive coordinator. Like, if you think about the possibility of him in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson and that offense with what they've already got as pieces under the hood and Mike does well, or a team like Detroit who just parted ways with John Morton, their offensive coordinator from this year after how everything went there. Like, those are 2 systems where, hey, you're used to quarterbacks working under center, a bunch of good play action work, guys throwing over the middle of the field in a way that pairs up with the way Mike designs the run game, which is still one of the best and most unique in football. I'd have to imagine he'll have plenty of suitors on that front.
I completely agree with that. I think he'll be put, hey, you take control of the offense, not the team. You're not going to be the CEO of a team, but you take control of an offense. The Cliff Kingsbury, now listen, I understand a lot of guys who are head coaches and then are fired and go back to coordinators don't have winning records. But again, Cliff Kingsbury had a losing record at Texas Tech for a number of years, a losing record in Arizona, never really close in either spot. Again, never finished better than tied for 5th in the Big 12 with Texas Tech. I'm again, he may interview well and get another shot. I don't know. But like I said, most guys that are interviewed probably don't have winning records as head coaches. That's kind of why they're probably not head coaches anymore. So when you start talking about the recycled guys.
Speaking of, by the way, where this could all land on the Mike McDaniel front of things, just looking 5 minutes ago at this report from Ian Rappaport at the NFL Network, that the Lions have reached out to former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel about their vacant offensive coordinator position. So that didn't take long. Figured it wouldn't. And, it's not the worst lot in life, right? There are plenty of people that have gone along in this coaching ranks and figured out where they sit and how they fit better. And you start to fantasize about, hey, yeah, it didn't work out there necessarily, but then you start to put the pieces together for a Detroit team that's got major motivation to go and get this right post Ben Johnson. And it seems like it could be a hell of a solve. For more on that and where we stand with the rest in coaching carousel, let's welcome in our first guest of the day, Charles Robinson. Check him out, Yahoo Sports senior NFL reporter, contributor over at Inside Coverage, doing a phenomenal job there. And Charles, let's start with the news of the day. Mike McDaniel out after a little bit of will they, won't they in the early portion of the week. How do you read into the timeline of this decision from Miami?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of this, you have ownership who's sitting there and saying, okay, well, let's see what the field of candidates looks like. And especially once John Harbaugh entered that field of candidates, a lot of people made that connection, which I think they should. Stephen Ross has had interest in both Jim and John Harbaugh in the past. There's the Michigan connections there, obviously, between the two families. And John Harbaugh is the belle of the ball. I think every team with an opening right now would be happy, aside from Baltimore, to bring him into the fold. I think what's interesting, though, is when Harbaugh sets his agenda for interviews, he sets it for next week. Well, I think there's a little bit of waiting going on. I think there's a question about if the Buffalo Bills lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and Sean McDermott is suddenly 0-6 on the road in the playoffs, and you have ownership staring at, we're going into a new stadium, our quarterback's turning 30 this offseason, the defense has been poor, the culture has felt a little more flat this season, or at least inconsistent when compared to last. I wonder if Harbaugh is not waiting to see if something ultimately unfolds there, and he goes from Lamar Jackson being his quarterback to Josh Allen. But I will say this too about Harbaugh, and really wherever he goes, I think he's going to want to have some influence in the front office. I don't think he necessarily wants to be GM or making the picks, but I think he wants to feel like he's working with someone in the front office who hears him, and he's not going to experience maybe some of the frustrations he felt at times in the past in Baltimore.
By the way, another offensive coordinator we didn't mention opening in Tampa Bay as John Grizzard was fired, the first year offensive coordinator. So of the coaches that got fired, the head coaches, we know John Harbaugh is going to get a job in this cycle. Yeah. Which of the other fired head coaches do you believe will get hired in this cycle with a different team?
I think Kevin Stefanski has an opportunity to be hired as a head coach in this rotation. I think what's really interesting right now is if you're the New York Giants and there's a possibility that Harbaugh is waiting to see what transpires in Buffalo, you don't want to be sitting there as the New York Giants and go, Harbaugh was really our guy. We've lost out on Harbaugh. What if the Baltimore Ravens were to jump in on Kevin Stefanski? And you're the Giants, and you're staring at it and going, okay, now what if we've lost Kevin Stefanski as well? Because I don't think it's a situation where they're going to be going out there shopping for, young coordinators or coaches that don't have a track record. I think they're going to go and they're going to look for a veteran coach who's, tone setting and had success in the past. And I think Stefanski, despite how things unfolded in Cleveland, he's maintained a lot of respect across the league. I think a lot of people feel like he was operating under a lot of adverse circumstances and things he couldn't control. The Deshaun Watson contract was not his fault, and that kind of falling apart and not being able to move on from it in a way where the team could function at 100%. I think there's just a number of things that Stefanski brings to the table, and he's very impressive when he sits down, in rooms with owners, and I've heard nothing but great things about his interviews in the past. So I think that's another guy that I truly think he's going to end up with a head coaching job in this cycle.
So Harbaugh and Stefanski kind of pick a litter guys when it comes to the head coaching gigs. Mike McDaniel now in the offensive coordinator market, if that's his destiny to go back to that ranks. I know a lot of teams going to be after him. The Lions reportedly have already reached out. What's your dream pairing for there? Like, who should Mike McDaniel want to go work with at this point, given some of the offenses that might have needs and fits?
Yeah, I mean, look, Detroit would be great because when you look at the strength of the team, it's young. I think that offensive line, they can get it back together again. You know, the interior of the line was a problem, but I think they're going to hit it pretty hard this offseason and make sure that they can bring it back together. It's got versatility in the backfield. Sam Laporta being back on the field. I mean, it was an underrated loss for the Lions down the course of last season. They really suffered without Sam Laporta on the field. I think it just sets up really well for Mike McDaniel to be an offensive coordinator there. And if that did not happen and you're Mike McDaniel, you can always work your way back to Kyle Shanahan's staff and prepare yourself for another opportunity. I think most people believe that if Mike McDaniel were to go back and work for Kyle Shanahan again, he would be able to resuscitate his, basically what his resume is and get another chance at a head coaching job. But Detroit is that offense. As soon as that coordinating position comes open, you're salivating. Anybody with any offensive experience would love to get in there and have a veteran quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I said, Laporta. They're deep everywhere. As long as they can fix the interior of the offensive line, you should be able to go out and score 30-plus points a game easily.
So speaking of on the move, two big money quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray, will they be starting for different teams next year?
So the Tua thing is interesting to me because let's say that Stephen Ross convinces John Harbaugh, hey, let's say Buffalo doesn't come open, or even if it does, Stephen Ross convinces John Harbaugh, this is really where you need to be. We will spend money on the staff for you. It's a very attractive place when players are in free agency. They want to come to Miami. They want to play in Miami. We don't have a general manager, so you can be an influence on the next general manager that we bring in, and we want it to be someone that you can work with. And then I think it's sort of like a Sean Payton situation with Denver, where initially the track that ownership was on with Sean was, we can move on from Russ. Year one, you can start. We can take that hit, and really we'll have to pull apart, a large portion of the roster to be able to take the cap hit. Or you can ride it out for a year with Russ and kind of calculate, see how you feel about Russell Wilson's fit, both as a leader with you, both schematically on the field, and then eye other potential quarterback options. And we can make the change a year from now, which will lessen the cap hit we'll ultimately take. It's the same situation in Miami. You can take what is upwards of like a $99 million cap hit if he's not traded and you can't get a team to take on some of that money, which I don't think he's tradable at this point. And you can split that post June 1, or you can ride it out through 2026 with the next head coach, do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson, and then you're staring at like a $31.8 million cap hit after the 2026 season going into 2027. Much more manageable. You don't have to destroy a team to get that kind of money off your books. So I won't push. I know, and I think I'm to the contrary here with other people. I hear a lot of other people and people in the league are sure he's not going to be a part of that team next year. I just don't know that it's easy to say that without knowing who the head coach and general manager are going to be coming in. And if they're certain he's not going to be on that team, I would think it's Stephen Ross inspired at this point, because who else is in the building that made the decision to commit to him, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
As for Kyler, Kyler's another one that I'm not absolutely 100% sure he's out the door, and that's partially because of the firing of Jonathan Gannon. I thought if Gannon were to return and be with Monty Ossenfort there next year, the general manager, I thought for sure Kyler was out the door, because I don't want to say it was like outright friction between Kyler and Jonathan Gannon, but I think Jonathan Gannon had some expectations that he felt weren't ultimately met with Kyler, and it was going to be very difficult for it to be a workable relationship going into 2026. So to me, that's another one where it's going to depend on who the head coach comes in, and ultimately really how they feel about Kyler Murray. But I don't think there's some varying there's some varying opinions about this. I don't think Kyler has real trade value, but there is potential that a team would say, look, we'll flip you a late round draft pick and we'll figure out who eats what amount of salary and we'll bring Kyler Murray in.
Sure. Going to be fascinating to watch all of it. Check out more great insight like this on Inside Coverage, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday on Yahoo Sports Network, on TV, YouTube, everywhere you can get it. Charles, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks guys. Have me anytime. Take care.
All right, coming up next, Wild Card Weekend, going to be ready and raring to go. We'll talk to Nico Collins from the Texans about their Monday night matchup in just a little bit when he joins us on the show. And, boy, the buzzer took a beating last night. Not one, not two, but 3 different shots seen around the association that we'll take you through next here on Golic Golic. Welcome back, and GG's. The buzzer didn't stand a chance in the NBA last night. Let's start with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Calmly nails his shot from near the free throw line at the end of regulation to force overtime, where he then scored 9 of his 46 points on the night as Oklahoma City beat the Utah Jazz 129-25 to snap a 2-game losing streak. They'd lost 6 of their last 12 games after starting 24-1. Emmanuel Quickley, next up, a 3-pointer from the top of the key at the buzzer as the Raptors rallied from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter to beat the Charlotte Hornets 97-96. RJ Barrett dropped 28 points as well to go along with Quickley's 21 in that game. Toronto 4 of 7 from 3 in the fourth quarter. And last but not least, Paolo Banchero called bank on the 3 from the top of the key at the overtime buzzer. That gives the Magic a 104-103 win over the Nets on Wednesday night. Banchero led Orlando with 30 points in that game. An incredible effort from the Magic as they continue to try and keep pace in the Eastern Conference. Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. And then, of course, you've got LeBron James, who, man, every headline I see continues to sound more and more like the final year. Didn't play in Wednesday night's loss to the Spurs, citing a number of injuries, including, I believe, the sciatica back-to-back, as well as some issues with the foot that's been bothering him going back to last year. So, Dad, joint arthritis and sciatica don't sound like conditions for long-term success for LeBron beyond this season.
No. And he said, basically, LBJ will be TBD for all second game of back-to-backs for the rest of the season.
Great line.
Here's a list of them. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's he just has no idea how many he'll be playing. He's missed, 17 games this year already because he didn't start the season. Austin Reeves has missed 12 games. Luka's missed 7 games. And they still find themselves in 4th place in the conference, just 6.5 out from Oklahoma City, who is not going to set the record or beat Golden State's record from 2015. That's not going to happen. So the Lakers are still right in the thick of things with Reeves out, LeBron, in and out of the lineup, and Luka obviously in at the most of those 3. So we'll see. I mean, it's about getting to the playoffs.
It's just such a far cry from where LeBron was last year in October of last season, saying, I want to play all 82 games and I want to be out there for all this, to the reality he faces with his body now. You can hear more about that reality, the Lakers and the rest of the association, with our guy Stan Verrett, Countdown Live, presented by Prime. It follows us right here after us for 5:30 p.m. Eastern here on FanDuel Sports Network. Great news, notes, and insights as you get ready for a night full of games here around the network. Don't miss it. Stick around. We'll pass the baton off in a little bit. But coming up next, we'll go ahead and dish it out to Nico Collins. Been good for the Texans. We'll see if it can get them over the hump with the Steelers on Monday night. Welcome back to Golic and Golic. We mentioned before, we've got a big weekend coming up. College football leading into the NFL's wild card weekend. We've been giving you a deep dive look at 2 games a day. Yesterday, the NFC varietal. Today, we'll give you a little AFC flavor. Chargers-Patriots, a matchup with the 2-seed Patriots, coming off one of the easier schedules in modern NFL history. Tons of questions about them that we can answer in a little bit. But as we get set to be joined, hopefully, by Nico Collins, star wide receiver for the Texans, let's take a look at that Texans-Steelers game that we're going to have coming up on Monday Night Football, Dad. These 2 teams, both interesting roads to get here. The Texans, just the 7th team in NFL history to start 0-3 and then eventually find their way to the postseason. Not a great track record for those teams once they get there. Only one team so far has actually won a postseason game after that. And meanwhile, for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, trying to get off the schneid, 0 for their last 6 in the playoffs under Mike Tomlin. So who do you see having the edge going into this game?
Well, I mean, listen, as a former defensive guy thinking defense wins championships, Houston defense ranked number 1 in the league. They are a stifling defense. 47 sacks on the year, 19 interceptions. So, I mean, they turn the ball over, kind of like, just not as much as Chicago, but they also are incredible against the run, against the pass. Danielle Hunter has 15 sacks, Will Anderson 12 sacks. They're just a devastating group. And obviously you have Nico Collins on the offensive side having the second best year of his career from receptions and receiving yards. So and Pittsburgh now. Pittsburgh again. Listen, they have more sacks. They have one more sack. They have 48 sacks, and they have 3 edge rushers in T.J. Watt, Nick Herbig, and Alex Highsmith. So they can bring it to the passer as well.
Yeah, very different passers that they're each going against, though, in this game. And I think that becomes the really interesting part, right? Because on one side, CJ Stroud, while he's no dual threat, is certainly a mobile enough quarterback to at times buy time. We've seen him, man. He has had a look at the Steelers' defense before under Mike Tomlin. Now, it was his rookie season where, oh, by the way, he broke a streak of 9 straight wins by Mike Tomlin against rookie quarterbacks in the NFL, getting a win for them in the regular season there. So not totally unfamiliar. A lot of the personnel similar, especially the star players on that team, but they're trying to chase a moving target. TJ Watt coming back huge last week. On the other side, how much stock do you put into Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers not only getting DK Metcalf back, but doing it coming off a game where Rodgers threw for a season-high 294 yards?
Oh, huge. Listen, Rodgers is having a heck of a year. That's why I think he's going to come back next year. 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Seems like he's enjoying it there, enjoying a relationship with Mike Tomlin and that offense. Getting DK back is going to be monstrous because it was tough to count on a receiver. He had a great relationship with Pat Freiermuth, the tight end. And certainly they want to get the running game going. But DK Metcalf is by far and away their best receiver. Can catch the slant, can catch the go route. He can affect the defense in multiple ways and help his other wide receivers. So I still favor Houston overall in this game, but certainly the odds for Pittsburgh obviously went up because DK Metcalf can play.
It is worth noting, looking back at what Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers were able to do against the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, 21st in the NFL in EPA per drop back allowed versus the Houston Texans, number 1 in that category, 6th in yards per game allowed passing. Like, hey, you're putting the donut back on the baseball bat as you get ready to go up to this at bat against the Houston defense. And we've talked about this before. This is the ball up top Texans, man. Like, you'd appreciate this. They're not a defense with a lot of frills. They're not a defense that has to disguise coverage or try and send more rushers. They're going to rush 4 and get after you. Now, again, like you said, it's not like they lead the NFL in sacks. They're not the Denver Broncos, but this is still a group up front that's going to challenge you in almost every way. They play a fast and physical style, emblematic of their coach. And I don't know, Dad, with some of the limitations of Aaron Rodgers' ability to get out of trouble as a quarterback, and we saw that on full display in Week 18. That's the biggest concern I have here. On the other side, listen, Houston's rushing attack has been something to say inconsistent at best over the course of the season, but I still trust the playmaking of CJ Stroud. Jaden Higgins, their rookie wideouts, come on really strong this year opposite Nico Collins, and I think that gives you enough firepower to go along with that defense to get this win.
Yeah, the running game you mentioned, Woody Marks is taken over as the main back there over Nick Chubb. Joe Mixon obviously hasn't been around all year. And, they average a little over 100 yards a game, not anywhere near the top of the NFL. So it could put pressure on CJ Stroud throwing the ball. He's more mobile than Aaron, as you said. But again, those edge rushers of Highsmith and TJ Watt. TJ Watt, his first game back against Baltimore after missing the 3 previous with a partially collapsed lung. They put so much pressure on a quarterback. So that to me is this game. Both these defenses can put pressure on the quarterback with a blitz or without a blitz. They both can rush 4 linemen, drop 7. Sometimes you don't know which 4 are coming to try and confuse the O-line, but they can get pressure with 4, which drops 7, which is certainly a benefit to the defense.
How much are you buying into the improvement of the Texans in terms of what they've done protecting CJ Stroud? You look this year, career low 1.6 sacks per game for CJ Stroud, including a goose egg. No sacks for CJ Stroud in the last 3 games combined. It's the first 3-game sackless streak for CJ Stroud since early in his rookie year. So I know they overhauled this offensive line. Ursary, one of their young draft picks, manning the helmet tackle, shuffled the deck inside a bit this season. Are you buying that as legitimate improvement?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, 31 total sacks for the year. CJ Stroud sacked 23 times. Obviously, it's him also getting out of trouble at times and either running or getting rid of the ball. You have to throw that in the equation. But much like the Chicago Bears offensive line, which gave up 68 sacks last year, and I think just 24 or something this year, in the 20s this year, the improvement because of the line and because of the quarterback maturing and how they handle the situation. We thought what they gave up Laramie Tunsil, we thought, what are you doing, giving up your best lineman? But it seemed to work out pretty well. Again, the running game not great, but CJ Stroud has been pretty clean through the year.
Worth noting, the last 3 opponents in that sackless streak, the Raiders, who are 18th in sacks, the Chargers, who are 11th, and then the Colts, who are 15th. So about league average in terms of the rushes they were facing during that time period. We also really, I think this year, and it's been fascinating, have largely excluded CJ Stroud from the discourse. Now, part of it is missed a career-high 3 games in the middle of this season where, oh, by the way, your backup in Davis Mills went 3-0, but which, again, the luxury that everyone's trying to find in this league, the quarterback that can keep you afloat for there. What's the assessment of CJ Stroud in this 3rd year where, hey, last year so many people pinned it on the coordinator, Nick Caley comes over this year. It seems like, hey, maybe not going to reach the heights that we thought of his rookie year, but certainly an improvement on last year. What's changed?
Yeah, I think you did definitely see an improvement, but so much was expected after his rookie year where he threw for over 4,100 yards and 23 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. Kind of like Jaden Daniels his rookie year, right? And then Jaden Daniels went through a spate of injuries. CJ got injured a little bit this year, but last year the numbers were down and you were like, we're not seeing that improvement. But I think it is, the arrow is starting to point up again. So let's see what next year brings. Obviously, for us on the outside looking in next year, they're looking at obviously a move in the playoffs. And there are those that think they can make a move in the playoffs because of their defense.
Yeah, trying to get back to the division round again, which has been par for the course for Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. All right, as we proceed, coming up next, we obviously have time to take a look ahead at the college football playoff. Coming up later, can Trinidad Chambliss pull off more magic? And Nico Collins from the Texans going to stop by here on Golic and Golic. Welcome back to Golic and Golic. Tomorrow, big one. Offensive lineman beware. TJ Watt, Steelers All-Pro linebacker, going to stop by and talk about his side of the matchup coming up on Monday night with them and the Houston Texans as Mike Tomlin and company try and snap that playoff losing streak. Don't miss it tomorrow right here on Golic and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., welcoming you guys back here today. We've got a big one coming up tonight in the Fiesta Bowl. Ole Miss against Miami, the 10th-seeded Hurricanes, who were almost a team that thought they were at risk of missing the tournament altogether, take on an Ole Miss team that's been caught up in the drama surrounding Lane Kiffin's decision to leave for LSU in the midst of a season that still has the potential to end in a national championship for the Rebs. So Miami, the favorites going into this game. Dad, they've offered 2 really impressive wins against Texas A&M and Ohio State going into tonight's game. If Ole Miss is going to find a way to pull the upset, how does it get done tonight?
I think it's going to be tough, but it's the matchup of 2 strengths, right? Ole Miss's offense and the Miami defense. This Miami defense, they're peaking at the right time. We'll get into their offense, but the defense of the teams left, defensively, they have the highest turnover rate, the highest interception rate, the highest sack rate, the highest pressure rate, most tackles for losses. I mean, they are getting it done on the defensive side of the ball. So, again, much like we talk about the cape going on Josh Allen, the cape needs to go on Trinidad Chambliss. And we saw him make some incredible plays last week with his legs, both running and getting out of the pocket and throwing absolute dimes on the run. And I have a feeling he's going to be in the same position. He is going to be pressured by Ruben Bain and company from Miami. So Kwan Lacey is going to have to be good as well. He had just under 1,500 yards, 23 touchdowns on the year. So if they can establish a running game, but Miami's good against the run. They're good against the pass. They're good against everything. This is going to be a real challenge for this Ole Miss offense.
A couple of shout outs. You mentioned the Miami defense. I do feel like so much of the conversation ends up understandably coming back to Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, right? They're two star ends. Bain, maybe not the prototypical edge build, but an absolute hammer and someone who was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year for that reason. But Ahmad Moten, who sounds like he's going to play at defensive tackle, has been hugely productive for them. We saw Keontae Scott with the pick six that really set off the Ohio State game. You look everywhere, and they've got guys playing the most physical brand of football left in the postseason right now. But you mentioned on the other side, Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss saw a version of this against Georgia. Now, very different styles that make this fight, right? Kirby Smart's Georgia defense, a lot more, I'd say similar to what you're going to get from Indiana in terms of, hey, they're going to show you different things up front. They're going to put together complex pressures that are going to challenge you from the neck up in addition to physically. But at the end of the day, Georgia's about big bodies that are hard to move, and that's a similar equation for Miami. And I think remembering back to that Ohio State-Miami game, the one thing that really shined brightest was, hey, Julian Sands great at a lot of things, but when he was under duress in that pocket, he didn't have a lot of answers. There looked like panic. It looked like quicksand, and that's the biggest difference with Trinidad Chambliss, Dad. He was at his best when things broke down in that Georgia game, and he's going to have to be once again here with this great receiver room and Kwan Lacey that you mentioned to try and make that happen. On the other side, Carson Beck, the quarterback at Miami, probably talked about the least of this group, despite the fact that he came in with a lot of fanfare. He was supposed to be a part of Georgia's run last year, but hurt that UCL in the game in the SEC championship. How much confidence do you have in him in the big moments going forward now based on what you've seen?
So he had an up and down year, right? He's certainly what the expectation was before the season. Really, this whole quarterback group we talked about before the season, they have not met expectations. And Carson Beck has been up and down. Does have 27 touchdowns, but 10 interceptions. So that hurts when you turn the ball over. What helps is he has some great receivers, right? Malachi Toney leading the way with over 1,000 yards receiving, I think 8 touchdowns. But he's got a couple of receivers out there that can really bail him out. He's not. We thought he would be the best player on the offense. He's not the best player on the offense, but he's good enough because of the rushing attack with Fletcher, the receivers that I mentioned, and the defense to help them win this game.
I would agree. This offense is run by Francis Mauigoa, the offensive line, and Malachi Toney. They tried to build the house out of Malachi Toney, and it works. When you can put him everywhere, you can throw him at Wildcat quarterback. I have a tremendous amount of respect for how that young man handles his business as a blocker, too. You go look at some of the biggest runs and critical moments of these high-pressure games, and Malachi Toney, who's not a big guy, sticking his nose in there, making it happen, opening up these creases for Mark Fletcher. But Carson Beck is the game manager. And I know that sounds like a 4-letter word to a lot of people, and it sounds like we're being dismissive for a guy that was highly paid, for a guy that 2 years ago was talked about as the number one pick. But that is what he's asked to do for this team, and he's done it at a high level through the first couple of games here. The big question then, I think, becomes, what can this Ole Miss defense do overall against Miami? Dad, you see big, strong, bruising group, Mark Fletcher, huge at running back.
Yes.
Is there a way for the Ole Miss defense to get through that iron hide and actually make life difficult for them?
Well, listen, I mean, we all know football comes down to either one-on-one battles and then scheming, right? How do you scheme? How do you disguise? Get pressure, try and get pressure on Beck. As I mentioned, he's thrown 10 interceptions. Get him to put the ball in harm's way. But you have to be able to stop that O-line and Mark Fletcher. You mentioned Fletcher. He's 225, 6'2", 225. Monster. He is a beast running the ball. Absolute beast, especially behind that offensive line, especially the interior of that offensive line. So, listen, I mean, Ole Miss got some size on that D-line. They just got to play ball. You can't trade. That's the one thing about as a former D lineman and interior D lineman, one thing you cannot do is trade one for one. Whether you're getting one-on-one blocked or whether you're getting combo blocked by two linemen with one trying to get off to the linebacker, you can't let that guy get off on the linebacker, or you have to fill that spot and make the tackle. And if you're blocked one-on-one with a guard or the center, you have to be able to get off the block. You trade one for one, you lose.
So I think, speaking of the double teams here, that's kind of where I centered on this matchup for Ole Miss against Miami. Because Ohio State, while incredibly talented on defense, I think committed the cardinal sin of being too static. Miami's big and strong up front. There are things technically I don't love about their offensive line, but man, they can get after dudes up front. You got to keep it moving if you're Pete Golding in this defense. We got to keep it moving because we got a big-time guest in the house here. Nico Collins, star wide receiver for the Houston Texans, kind enough to join us. Listen to the Monday Night Football matchup with them and the Steelers on Westwood One Radio. Pre-game coverage starts with me and Dad, 7 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get Westwood One. Nico, good to see you, man. We appreciate the time. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Doing well, Nico.
No, we appreciate you giving us some time. I'm sure it's a busy week leading up to playoff football. How are you and the team feeling, getting into the preparation for the last game of the weekend?
We feeling great, man. We feeling great. Now our mindset, just one game at a time. Going out and just executing one play at a time, and locking in on the install, and just keeping our mindsets fresh, man. Going out, and going just having fun, just being us, knowing the opportunities there, and it's no better feeling, to be in this postseason, playoffs. There's no better feeling. So the energy is definitely there.
So the start of the season was tough. As a matter of fact, Houston's the only team to 2 times start 0-3 and make the playoffs. They did in 2018. You weren't there then, but then this year started out 0-3 but made the playoffs. What was the discussion of your head coach and your team after that 0-3 start before the fourth game?
0-3, it's a marathon. It's a long season, man, and that wasn't the message. That wasn't the way we wanted to start the season. And D'Amico said, man, we want to get where we need to go. We need to tighten up, and we got to go out there and be relentless and just have fun. And I feel like that's what we was doing, man. We caught our strides and just taking one game at a time, and executing on offense, executing on defense, and just one week at a time. That's my mindset. That's been our mindset, and it's been showing.
Worked out incredibly well. 9 straight wins to end the season, rolling in hot. Another new offensive coordinator for you guys and Nick Caley this year. What have you seen in terms of the development of your quarterback now in his third season from CJ Stroud?
Man, calm and collected. Dude, still a playmaker. And even he missed a couple of times due to injury, concussion. But he came back, man, not skipping the beat. Going out there, leading the team the right way, like he can. And the dude's phenomenal, man. The sky's the limit for him every single day. Every time he steps on the field, just his mindset. He step in the huddle, he's calm, collected. He's ready to lead the entire team, and that's one player, man. You'll play for sure. Run through a brick wall for it, man, and it's no better feeling to have him as a quarterback.
For you, your third straight year over 1,000 yards, over 1,100 yards this year. A couple of years ago, just under 1,300 yards. You had the hamstring issue last year, and then going into the offseason and coming back this year, was there concern? A hamstring on a wide receiver, that's like a sports car with a little bit of an issue. How was that coming into this year?
Man, that was my main mindset, man. Just how can I stay available for the team? How can I be available for the team? How can I take care of my body and just play all 18, 20 games, however long it takes? And I feel like just doing the right thing, taking one thing at a time, finding the right things that work for me. Like getting on a routine, maybe do some yoga, Pilates, treatment, just doing whatever it takes, to feel good going into Sundays, and it's a blessing to have 1,000-yard straight seasons. I can't do that without the O-line, the quarterback, the team believing in me, trusting in me. So it's only right. I can only build on that, continue to chase greatness, and continue to be here for my guys, man. That's what keeps me going every single day. Being here for them and just enjoying it.
Well, I'm sure one thing that has to feel good is going into Sundays and not having to face your own defense. Your guys' defense, the ball up top Texans, have made life really difficult for everyone else. As an insight for a guy that did face them in training camp, what is it like facing this group, and why do you think they're able to create so many problems for other teams?
Man, that's a hard group. It's hard, man. Everybody's dog on D-line, linebacker to the secondary, man. Everybody's swarming. Everybody's on a mission to get the ball, and you feel that when the snap before the snap even snap, man, you just feel the awareness of them, man, and just going against them every single day, man. Iron sharpens iron, and it's only right that they get me better, we getting them better, and that's how you build a championship team. You know, it come down. It starts then. It's starting camp, OTAs. You know, we out there 100-degree heat, about to fight each other. You know, can't even get through a play. Man, that's when it starts, man. That's when the bonding starts, man. The brotherhood, playing for each other. So when you line across as anybody else, you know, it's effortless, you know, because you putting that work in practice. You've been putting the work in throughout camp, OTAs, you know, times like that. So when the time comes, it shows, you know. But man, it's no better feeling going against our defense every single day because you know they getting you ready for battle.
Well, going against the Pittsburgh defense in Pittsburgh this weekend. Doesn't look like weather will be an issue, though you went to Michigan, so weather was never really going to be an issue for you. What problems does this Pittsburgh defense pose to you guys?
Yeah, man, they dangerous, man. They a great defense, a great team, man, all around. They're a balanced team, man. Great defensive front, great secondary, man. Great offense. So it's only right, man. We got to come out and be sharp on details. Be sharp on our end. Stay above the sticks, man. Put points on board, man. Because it's not easy winning in Pittsburgh, man. We know backs against the road. We on the road, night game, you know. So we all we got, man, and we all we need going into there. So, man, Pittsburgh is a great team, both sides of the ball. So we're gonna have to bring it.
I have no doubt you guys will be ready when Renegade kicks on in the fourth quarter to make this an exciting finish. Nico, best of luck, man. Congrats on all the success. We're excited to watch you guys.
Thank y'all so much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Nico.
Happy New Year. Appreciate it, Nico. It's, I mean, it really does have to see, in all seriousness, like going against that group. We see all the time some of these teams. It's like you have to be going through camp wondering, are we like terrible or are they just great? And to go out and see what they've done to everybody else certainly makes you feel better about that Houston offense and how they had to feel at times during camp.
Yeah, without question. That iron does sharpen iron for sure. And one thing Nico and his crew will have to worry about is Pittsburgh does cause a lot of fumbles. They recovered 12. They forced obviously more than that. So you got to make every single play you're hanging out of that ball and make sure because they will punch it out.
Going to be an exciting finish to a great weekend of football that all gets started coming up tonight. With that being said, coming up next, we got to get you ready for tonight for the College Football Playoff. Our buddy Tim Murray going to stop by to give you the best bets for the College Football Playoff semis right here on Golic and Golic. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. with you guys here today. David Pollack and Tim Murray going to join us to help us preview the College Football Playoff game coming up tonight. Look ahead to the Peach Bowl tomorrow as IU and Oregon get set for a rematch of the regular season. But we got big news in the NBA and beyond, so let's get to it in our three-point stance, get you caught up on what you've missed so far. The college football transfer portal continues to whirl. In this news, Damon Williams' agent, Doug Hendrickson of Wasserman Football, cut ties with Williams, citing philosophical differences as the reason for his decision. Remember, Williams had previously agreed to return to Washington as their quarterback, signing a contract before reversing course this week, entering the transfer portal as we await to see what his ultimate destination could be. And the current expectation, DJ Lagway committing to Baylor. Sources told CBS Sports the former five-star recruit was the 15th ranked overall player in the portal. Lagway's father, Derek, played running back at Baylor from 97 to 2001, and Baylor was the first team to offer the Texas native coming out of high school. By the way, Sawyer Robertson passed for over 3,600 yards for the Bears last year. Jake Spavital, pretty good calling offense. And Trae Young going to be taking his offensive talents to the Washington Wizards, sources told Shams Charania at ESPN. The Hawks are trading the four-time All-Star for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Yeah, you heard that right. Trae Young worked together with the Hawks in recent days. The Wizards had emerged as his preferred destination. Sure. He has a $49 million player option this offseason, and it could opt out and become a free agent as well. So when you see the price tag that was paid to get him out of Atlanta and into Washington, really seems to be a reminder of, one, how far he's fallen, but I think too also the reality, like this second apron era of the NBA is essentially a hard capped league, and so you cannot afford to have a player paid to go be a superstar that's just performing as a very good offensive player on your roster anymore.
Yeah, and again, one of those guys that went, CJ McCollum goes, but he's on an expiring contract, a little over $30 million. Right now, Atlanta has a ton of money to play with, and they're eyeing Anthony Davis from the Dallas Mavericks, which certainly could be fruitful and could be iffy. You know, he definitely spent some time on the bench with injuries, but they're eyeing him. And then a really valuable first-round pick. They get the more favorable pick between New Orleans and Milwaukee. And right now, New Orleans has 8 wins on the year. Sacramento has 8 wins. The Pacers has 6 wins. So that New Orleans first-round pick would look pretty sweet for Atlanta. So they're looking to obviously change directions without Trae Young anymore, and obviously have money to spend and possibly a high draft pick. So they're looking to make a move.
Yeah, I think when you look at the young core for Atlanta now that they can maybe try and build around here, there is some hope. That's why the Anthony Davis move to me would be really short-sighted to bring him over at this point in his career to try and do that. Get to the summer, figure out your life then. A lot of people did wonder, hey, would the Hawks maybe keep Trae Young around as a high-priced expiring contract to package in a deal for someone like Giannis Antetokounmpo? So as we turn the page on this, because I don't know how much interesting there is with Trae Young in Washington. He's going to go there and be able to ball dominate, put up a bunch of points, but I don't know if that necessarily translates into career redemption with a contender. It just doesn't seem like at this point his style of game, even with the high offensive output, is worth a team that's going to play meaningful basketball in the postseason changing or having to completely change the way they do business.
Yeah, Washington is second to last in the conference. They have what I think 10 wins. They're 10-26. Yeah, they're not going to be good, I don't think, anytime soon. So again, this was obviously all about Atlanta changing directions.
Yeah, and I even think beyond that, though, I'm not sure what the market looks like for Trae Young among teams of actual value in the league if he decides to opt out or after the next year when that contract is up all the way. I mentioned the Giannis portion of this, though, in there and the idea of potential trade partners there, because we did hear from the Bucks superstar who said there will never be a chance and there will never be a moment that I will come out and say, I want to trade. That's not my nature. Giannis Antetokounmpo told The Athletic after their loss to the Golden State Warriors. He said, my plan is to be here for the rest of my career. If they don't want me, I'm not the one in charge. I am an employee. Do you believe him this time around?
No, I mean, he's saying that now. Isn't he the one that was basically threatening, make some moves, or I'll be gone. I need to be gone. I mean, the most powerful athletes in North America in our 4 major sports as far as movement is NBA, without question. And when I say NBA, I mean superstars, of which Giannis is one of them. So I don't really believe him, no. If Milwaukee is not contending and he's getting up there, I think he's gonna force his way out.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this anymore. Like Giannis seems to go out here and intimate one thing, have his camp intimate one thing by being able to come out here and play the good guy and say this. And ultimately, listen, it was the prospect of moving him always difficult because were you ever going to get a full maxed out return for what Giannis means to you, both on the court as a member of that franchise who brings the gravity that he does, that puts butts in seats, that has you as a perennial contender just by being available and on the floor. No, you probably were never going to be able to recoup the full value there. And so I don't know what to do with this, Dad. I guess this does kind of dampen. I think a lot of people think Trae Young could be the biggest name moved at the deadline this year. That's how outside of this, there really wasn't much else hanging in the balance that felt like it was going to swing anyone's championship hopes.
It's just hard to I don't know. With Giannis, I remember he said his agent was talking to the team, and his agent is his own person. He talks about what he wants to talk about. And we laughed about it on air, talking about it that day. Said, no, he doesn't, Giannis. The agent works for you and is gonna spread the word that you want spread. So I guess he can say, I'll never ask for a trade, but if his agent asks for a trade, maybe he'll stick with that line and say, hey, my agent's his own man. He asked if they could trade me, and they're going to trade me. It was my agent. I don't know. Who knows?
It does seem like he is trying to get off on technicalities, though.
Yeah,
I don't think you're wrong. This has shades of Lincoln Riley back when he was the coach at Oklahoma, famously saying at the press conference, I think it was after Bedlam, that I will not be the next head coach at LSU, before he left to become the next head coach at USC instead. So sometimes we choose our words carefully for specific reasons. We'll wait and see if Giannis has any of those reasons coming up. A man who always chooses his words incredibly carefully. Tim Murray, kind enough to join us now, the host of VSiN Primetime Weeknights on VSiN here, a man with always very colorful hats. Tim, obviously you and I also both share background with Notre Dame here. How are you dealing with the new realities of the transfer portal week in college football?
Oh, it's been going great. All these commits, it's flowing in. Nick Marsh and he's going elsewhere. So I'm trying to be. Actually, you talked a little bit of sense into me a bit here regarding them. So I'm trying to stay level-headed because 366 days ago we were down in Miami thinking about a national championship, and now we're scouring message boards to see what commits or what visits are happening. So it's been less than enjoyable. I'll say that.
So all based on, for those who don't know what we're talking about, Notre Dame, I believe, has 19 players in the portal and have 0 that have come from another school to Notre Dame, even though they've been hosting players and such. So, Mike, let me ask you, are you worried?
No, diamond strong hands right now. What I will say is, in recent years, Notre Dame's approach to the portal has been done more in silence and has usually, in the end game, found 4 or 5 key contributors for the team. I think what we are seeing this year, and this is kind of a byproduct of a much more public process for all this. See, the Damon Williams situation is we know a lot more about what's going on and how the sausage is being made this year. And so when you can see everything happen in real time, kind of like the College Football Playoff Committee, you can get good results at the end that make sense. But when you see the process, it can feel a little bit icky at times. So that is the end of my rant as we try and talk some maybe people down off the ledge there in South Bend. But as we proceed and look at the teams that are getting ready to play, this Miami team that was almost on the outside looking in from this, now getting ready to play a semifinal game against Ole Miss coming up tonight. They're favorites in this game here. Is Miami the hottest team in this tournament right now? Maybe south of Indiana? Are they in that conversation with the Hoosiers, the best team? How do you look at these guys?
Well, I think you go back to where we were prior to the bracket coming out, and I like your twist on it. We, Notre Dame, the collective we. By the way, you guys can say we. I did not go to Notre Dame. I am a fan of the institution. You guys played for Notre Dame, so you could say we all you want. I'm just some subway jabroni, but we digress. But leading into this, Miami was 200-1 at the Circa Sportsbook, guys, to win the national title prior to the bracket being revealed. And then they get in. We know they've won 2 straight here. And the defense is as good as we kind of expected them to be, right? You think back to September and their wins over Notre Dame, South Florida, then Florida State, or their dominant win over Pitt. And this is what we've expected to see. I think what's been impressive to me, guys, so far, and I've heard some criticism of Carson Beck's play. I would disagree. I actually think Carson Beck has played really smart football here. He has not been asked to do too much. He has not made the mistakes. He has not had the turnovers like he did against Louisville, which was, at the time, we thought a bit of a crippling loss on that Friday night when they were 2-touchdown favorites. He's made the right decision. So that's what's so intriguing to me, guys, about tonight's game. And I did take a little fun bet at FanDuel, which is over 3.5 rushing yards. Now, keep this in mind. When you're betting quarterback rush props in college, sacks count against them. So in the NFL, sacks do not count against your rush total, but in college they do. That being said, Miami and Mike you would know this well, has the best offensive line in college football. And this is not an Ole Miss team that tends to get after the quarterback all that much. And lastly, why I took a little flyer on a fun prop like this tonight. Carson Beck ran the ball a couple of times against Ohio State. And this is a team that feels like they want to grind you out, right? Kind of put a chokehold on you, if you will. 3-4 yards. Let's just keep moving those chains. So I could see Carson Beck 3-4 yard run here or there. So that's why I took this prop. Not my favorite bet of the game, but we only got 3 college football games left. I had to find a couple of spots to make some bets, guys.
It looks like the funniest one at 3.5 yards, but that's a great note that people may not understand. Sacks do count against a quarterback's rushing total. As far as both games, Miami and Ole Miss, the over-under is 52.5, Oregon, Indiana, 48.5. Which do you think is more apt to go over?
I would say Ole Miss and Miami. Now, I did bet first half under, and I'll get into that here in just a moment and why I did that. But I think if I were to envision how these games were to play out, I could certainly see the second half tonight kind of mimicking what we saw on New Year's night down in New Orleans, which was things just got off the rails. We saw high-flying offense left and right, not a whole lot of stops. Trinidad Chambliss just playing like Michael Vick back in like the early 2000s. He was unbelievable in that game. I think early on, why I ultimately took a little bit of the under in the first half, guys, is what I mentioned regarding Miami. I think Miami is a team that's going to want to try to keep number 6 off the field as much as possible, and I think they're capable of doing that with Mark Fletcher and this rushing attack and some of the short passing game. We haven't seen Carson Beck try to stretch the field, and I think that's I think that's Shannon Dawson's mindset is why try to be risky when we have a great offensive line and we can kind of impose our will. And when you have an elite offensive line like Miami does, and you've got a battering ram like Mark Fletcher, that's why I think you see this game kind of be squeezed a little bit here in the first half. So first quarter totals 10.5. First half totals 27.5. I think both are worth a look. The full game is where I get a little bit worried. And to your question, Big Mike, I think this game has the potential to getting a little wild late in this contest, especially if, let's say, Miami is trailing, then you got to kind of ratchet it up and let's get Malachi Toney on, a deep route, or let's try to be a little bit more aggressive. I think they try to play more conservatively in the first half, and that's why I look at the first half under.
Indiana and Oregon, a rematch in the regular season coming up tomorrow. Who wins the game and why?
Ooh, man. So let's just go back in time to early October. And I felt like this was the game where people were like, okay, I'm in on Indiana. Last year we saw the record, we heard from Kirk Cignetti, and at the end of the day, when they went on the road to Ohio State, when they went on the road to Notre Dame, they lost both those games and they didn't cover. This year it was, they're not going to drop off, but how good are they? Okay, you beat Iowa on the road, big deal. Then they went out to Autzen, and they won this game 30-20. And I know you guys used to work with Bill Conley over at ESPN. I love looking at his numbers and how he grades games out. He graded this game out. Indiana had a 98% post-game win expectancy. His adjusted margin of victory was 16. So what's that telling us? Indiana dominated that game. Now, that game was spread at 6.5, 7 on a home field. So you give that about 3.5 points. So in October, we were told that Oregon was about 3.5 points better than Indiana. Now we're told that Indiana's 3.5 points better than Oregon. And because of the run and the dominance from Indiana, whether it be the win at Autzen, the win against Penn State coming from behind, the win in the Big Ten championship, or what we saw last week at the Rose Bowl, everybody seems to be on Indiana here. So it's hard for me to go against Kirk Cignetti. I did take Oregon plus the points here. And I'll say this. You can wait. I really believe we can wait and get a better number. If you're like me and you're intrigued by the underdog in this spot, I think you could wait, maybe get a 4, maybe get a 4.5. But I kind of look at this game like maybe Hurgler and Hearns, man. I think this might just be at the middle of the ring, just throwing haymakers at each other. I love the battle that we're going to see in the middle of the ring between the Hagler and Hearns. By the way, I messed that up. So it's a little before my time. Maybe Big Mike knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, I got
you.
you.
I saw his eyes. I saw his eyes light up on that one. The same way the eyes light up of everyone who checks out Tim. Again, VSiN primetime weeknights on VSiN. Also, the host of the College Football Betting Podcast over there as well. Tim, always a pleasure, brother. I'm sure we'll be nervously texting about the portal here soon. Thanks, buddy.
Just one commit, Mike. Just one. Just give me one. Give me a little taste. Just a little taste.
Just a crumb of commitment here for the Irish as we head to the break here. Thanks, Tim. We appreciate it, buddy.
See you guys.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, coming up next, from a crumb to a whole heap and helping of the Patriots and the Chargers. Can the Chargers upend Drake May's MVP season? Next. We're back here on Golic and Golic. Thanks to our buddy Tim Murray. David Pollack, former All-American linebacker, going to join us here in the next 15 minutes as we continue to give you everything you need to go into this weekend for college football. But that's our goal for Wild Card Weekend as well. We mention each day taking a look at 2 games, going in a little deeper as we get set for a weekend spanning 3 days of NFL football. And I think one game that's a real point of curiosity for a lot of people is going to be this Patriots-Chargers game, right? Both teams where, hey, we're used to these teams and colors being in the postseason. For the Patriots, it's been a minute. Obviously, the remnants of the Brady dynasty, mostly what we have in mind here. And for the Chargers, this is a group where Jim Harbaugh came in and completely revitalized the team last year. This year, injury once again upending the offensive line, make this seem improbable. And yet here they sit at 11-6 going against a Patriots team that had one win against a team above 500 this year. How much does that matter when we get into this time of year, Dad? We always hear about the jump in speed and intensity for playoff football. How much does the lack of high-end competition for New England this regular season affect that?
You know what? It's one of those where you can make an argument either way, but the bottom line is you're in the playoffs, and it doesn't matter. You're back to 0-0. And I'm sure if they get beat, that will get brought up again, right? But to me, it doesn't matter. It's all about getting into the tournament. They're all NFL teams. They're all professional athletes. You can't decide who you're going to play in college, like you can't pick your schedule. So you just got to play who's in front of you. So I don't put much stock into that, especially with a coach like Mike Vrabel, who's been there, done that as a player, obviously. So I don't really put a ton of stock into it, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't be brought up if the Chargers come to Foxborough and beat them.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, hey, if you haven't had to grip the wheel tight in some big moments with a team that's still young in so many areas and really winning for the first time like this now in year 1 with Mike Vrabel, like you still don't have a lot of time under task with all of this. And Drake May at the helm of this has had one of the better seasons we've seen by a quarterback all year long. And certainly a guy only in his second season, he's looked sensational, but you haven't had to go through those hard times against a team that maybe is on the same level. That being said, I don't know, how much confidence are we allowed to have in the Chargers, who have weathered the storm of Justin Herbert seemingly dropping back to get his ass kicked almost every down this season, as Rashawn Slater was hurt early, then Joe Alt joined the party after that. It's been kind of a round robin of injury for those guys that's left us a time wondering if Justin Herbert's going to even be able to leave the field. Like, can they really go to Foxborough with this offensive line and have a chance?
Yeah, listen, it's not like New England has been world beaters getting to the quarterback. They're in the lower 10 with just 35 sacks, right? Obviously, San Francisco leads the way there, leading in a bad way with 20 sacks. Next closest is 26. Like I said, New England has 35. And they've given up 60 sacks this year, have the Chargers. So, yes, the O-line has been an issue, but it's not like New England is like Houston or Pittsburgh in rushing the passer, or Denver in rushing the passer. They don't really get after the passer like some of the better teams do. So that could work to the Chargers' favor. And the Chargers have really 3 good receivers to get the ball to. So that will be an interesting part, how much Justin Herbert does have to be on the move.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this Patriots team, in terms of pressuring the quarterback, they've been pretty good. 10th highest rate in the NFL, just under 36% pressure rate for them, which is not all that dissimilar from what the Chargers do. But really, Harold Landry leads the team in sacks. K'Lavon Chaison's been awesome coming over for them this year, I thought, as a guy that they picked up. And it sounds like they're going to get Robert Spillane back, too. Remember, this is a team that was sort of beat up down the stretch. And you look, Jared Wilson at left guards in the concussion protocol. They got Will Campbell back last week, which I think is huge going into this postseason. I'd probably still lean Patriots in this one, but when you look at how the Chargers have been able to overcome this all year long, it's not one of the world beater defense, think Houston, Denver, that I worry too much about that Chargers line really being exposed. And you got 3 levels of wide receiver that can really work with Herbert, who is in a sea of the playoffs where we talk about no Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow. Justin Herbert is that war daddy caliber of quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the true super weapons on his best day. And so you combine that with Tuli Tuipulotu and the rest of that defense that Jesse Minter has that is one of the better ones in the playoffs. And I think they're going to make this interesting. I think they can bloody the Patriots' lip and maybe cover this 3.5-point spread, but I don't know if I can say they outright win it against this Drake May-led offense that has been as advertised with Stephon Diggs coming over.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know about the rushing attack for the Chargers. I do like the 3 receivers in McConkey, Allen, and Johnston. For New England, it's basically 2, Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry, right? But a nice running game as well. Both defenses ranked pretty high in the major categories. New England higher than the Chargers. This is one of those that would not shock me either way, right? If the Chargers go all the way to New England and win that game, I won't come on our show the next week and say, oh my God, one of the greatest upsets of all time. They definitely have the talent to do it, but I'd probably lean toward the home team.
The Patriots are technically one of just 2 teams in the NFL to rank both top 5 in scoring offense and scoring defense, the other team being the Seattle Seahawks. Now, we know all things are not created equal in this, and I don't know if anyone looks at the Patriots defense in the same light it looks at the Seahawks, just the same way no one looks at the Seahawks offense in the same light that they do the New England Patriots on offense. So lots of things to parse there as we get ready for that matchup here. We also want to keep you ready should things go awry. And if you've got to miss any of the great games on FanDuel Sports Network, well, good news for you. We got the FanDuel Sports Network app. NBA and NHL fans, after the final whistle blows, you can watch every highlight and every big moment from your favorite team in 5, 10, or 15-minute condensed games. All you got to do, go and download the FanDuel Sports Network app and have a really good time. It's that fun and easy to use. Speaking of fun and easy, we love getting ready for the college football playoff. David Pollack going to join us to talk about the trench battles in both of these games next on Golic Golic. Golic Golic here on FanDuel Sports Network. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. Big night coming up. The Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss kicks off the College Football Playoff Semifinal round. We've had a whirling wild week in the transfer portal as well. So for more on that, we got to bring in the big guns here. David Pollack, former All-American Georgia linebacker, so host of C-Ball, Get Ball, wherever you get your podcast. Also Saturdays here on FanDuel Sports Network. Kind enough to join us now here. David, good to see you, man. Happy New Year. How you doing?
What up, fellas? We fully recovered now, enjoying the playoffs, even though Notre Dame wasn't in it. We back liking it.
Yeah, we are watching Bama get smoked the way they did, thinking Notre Dame should have been over Bama. That kind of made the sting last a little longer.
And then Miami doing business, doing work. Like that's kind of.
We don't have an issue with Miami beat us. I'm cool as all players here. Head to head's got to mean something. So I have no problem with Miami being ahead of Notre Dame.
No, it's been a great playoff field. We got great games coming up here. Before we dive too much into that, though, David, obviously I know we've talked to you about the changes in college football at large, and this week we've had sort of the latest big shift, it feels like, with this Damon Williams situation at Washington right now. Saw his agent just parted ways with him. Are we going to look back on this as kind of like Nico Iamaleava last year, another case of maybe a young man getting bad advice at a critical juncture, or what do you see from this?
Well, it's bad advice because the system has also allowed like bad things to happen, right? Like, so this is the part of the system, a part of the calendar, a part of all the stuff that is wrong with college football. There's a lot that's great. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that these agents don't have to pass protocols and go through hoops and be certified agents that are dealing in the right way, like doing this the right way with integrity, or else they'll know they'll suffer consequences. It's a wacky situation. Yeah, we're going to look back on it. We're going to see what precedent is set too, because I think one of the things that all of us can get behind, let's get contracts in sports, right? Like, let's get contracts that matter, that mean something. So I know what I'm working with, man. Like, I can get some stability, and the fans can know, hey, man, I got my dude for a couple years. You know, like, I locked this dude up. We signed a 2-year deal. Good to have him. And Damon Williams is a freak. Like, if you haven't watched him out in Washington, like, the dude's unbelievable. He's got some Kyler Murray to him where he can scramble around and make any play on the field. He's got a big arm. So he's a big-time catch, and I understand why people would want him in the portal, but it's also not a surprise that it's LSU, and there's more drama with that. That seems to be the case. And so, like, all this stuff that we continue to happen, it's unfortunate, but it's a part of the world until this world gets calmed down and solidified.
Yeah, you're right about the agents. I mean, Jimmy's high school buddy could be his agent, and nobody would bat an eye. It's crazy. So, again, before we get to the games, what domino do you think has to fall first for this to start to move in the right direction?
This is very simple. This is not hard, to the point where I'm like, can we just get some people in a room and start talking? Like, the powers at be are where? It's in the Big Ten. It's in the SEC. They have the majority of the power. They have the majority of the money. Let's do this thing. Like, the NCAA has no power. There's no say. There's nothing it can do. The NCAA needs to do what it was meant to do: hand out the trophies, protect the players. But when it comes to the entity that is, the NCAA is sued time and time again, and it continues to lose time and time again, and it continues to open a box. So, like, can we get to the point where we're an AFC and NFC? Like, we're all in two divisions where this is big boy football. Like, because now here's what's cool. The coolest part about this, Golics, is that now we're seeing Indiana in this. We're seeing Ole Miss in this. Why? Because we've opened this up, and you have the freedom to run your business, which is what you are, a business. A university is a business the way you want to. And they've made some really, really good business decisions, both of those squads, to get to somewhere where they've never been before. Like, they have a chance. Ole Miss has never won it. Indiana's never won it. They both have a chance to play for it, in January. So it'd be pretty cool to see that. But I think the two main players in the game need to separate and start setting some rules on their terms.
No question. I think this could potentially be the moment that starts all that, considering how much it's dominated conversation this week. Let's take the conversation to the games we have coming up tonight. You mentioned LSU's kind of been the specter in this whole situation, especially surrounding Ole Miss. The will they, won't they of which coaches will be available going into this semifinal game. With all that in mind, how impressed have you been by this Ole Miss squad, not only on the field, but the resilience they've displayed in that locker room?
It's almost like it's kind of galvanized them, right? Like, it's been like, all right, like, our coach didn't want us. And y'all know this feeling in the locker room. Like, when you get disrespected, when you get slighted, when you feel like somebody told you, like, you're not good enough. Like, Lane just said, hey, man, I need to go because I think I can go win it over here. And they're like, aren't we playing for the whole thing right now? Like, don't we have that opportunity right now? Like, and so I think it was a galvanizing force in that locker room. You can tell there's a little extra something to him. I think Pete Golding's the story too, man. Just the way he's handled this. Like, hey, you know what? You're going to come into your first coaching job, which you didn't even want. He talked about it. Like, I wasn't really thinking about being a head coach. And you're going to be in the playoffs, and then you're going to play the best coach in the sport in the second round, Kirby Smart. And you're going to outcoach him and win. Like, it's been a heck of a ride and a heck of a start, and you're going to do it with a quarterback that y'all found on Twitter, which I think is the most amazing thing ever. We need a backup quarterback. This dude from Ferris State, he looks like he's played a little bit, got a bunch of starts, some game experience. Like, okay, like that's a good guy. We can pay a little bit of money to bring him in. He's our backup. And the dude goes, y'all know it, goes God mode in the video game, right? Like, when you just start, like, he's on fire from NBA Jam, where you just start chucking from half court and it's in the bottom of the net. It's beautiful. So, been an unbelievable story. Been impressed with them, how they've handled it, and they got a big test on their hands tonight.
Well, yeah, so let's go to that. Trinidad Chambliss, who is petitioning for another year, and if he gets it, he's going to stay at Ole Miss. How does this Ole Miss battle this incredible Miami defense?
You know what's amazing about this, man? These couldn't be any more different teams with any more different styles, but both of them have the same result in the end. They want to do one thing. They want to wear you out. Now, one wants to wear you out like Mike Tyson. One wants to walk in the room and start hitting you in the kidneys and start body blowing you up and swinging it for the fences every single play. And that's Miami. Like, they want to be the more physically dominant team so in the fourth quarter they can win. Well, Ole Miss does it too, but Ole Miss looks like Floyd Money Mayweather. Like, I'm going to stay on the outside. I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go death by 1,000 cuts. And Trinidad's the key, man. Like, that defensive line for Miami is so dirty. It's so good. But y'all know this. When the ball comes out fast, ain't much I can do. I get my hands up, try to get a piece of it. And Trinidad's processor, and he knows where to go with the football. He knows how to get it out. And then he does just enough of those backyard ball plays to keep you honest and to make those big plays, get you another first down where they can go tempo again. The key for Ole Miss is the same thing they did against Georgia. Georgia, the first time, they stopped running it completely. The second time, they were bullish. They've got to run the ball. They've got to be able to have a little bit of balance. And Lacey's a dog, bro. Like, that dude breaks tackles. He's got speed. He can make the plays that aren't there, and he can make the plays that are there. So I think it's critically important for them as a part of the body blows. Go to the body a couple times, right? As a part of the plan. I'm going to stay on the outside, but let me hit that kidney a little bit, right? Like, let me touch you up and let you know you got a cover down here so I can take those shots. But two completely different styles and who can impose their will is absolutely fascinating.
It's going to be wild to watch that. You mentioned for Miami on the other side, their ability to dominate the line of scrimmage. How can Pete Golding's Ole Miss defense try and slow down Mark Fletcher in this rushing attack?
Well, that's the best part of their defense. That's the good news for Ole Miss. You look at Eccles and Harris on the inside, 51 and 52. It's their best two players, like, by far. And those guys are big. One's 6'7", 330 pounds. Like, they're good, man. Like, they're really good players. They'll stunt. They'll twist. They'll eat you up inside. So they have the ability to do that. The problem for Ole Miss has been their secondary. Like, it's the back half of their defense. Can they get Malachi Toney on the ground? Can they stop Carson Beck? Because if they have to play man-to-man, if you play zone, Carson Beck will eviscerate you. Like, he'll get the ball out. He'll read it quickly. So when you play man, can you hold up with Toney? Can you hold up with a little bit of the creativity with Miami that they've shown in this postseason, the ability to throw the screen game, to go to jet sweeps with Coney and just find ways to get their playmakers involved? Because if you give them off coverage, Carson Beck will take it apart. So I think that they're suited to do that. But just like last game against Georgia, they're cramping up in the fourth quarter because those guys play a ton of snaps. So fourth quarter, if my offense has been going fast and they've been hammering away at me, can Ole Miss continue to stay in the fight? Because they played a very physical team like less than a week ago, guys. And now you got to line up and do it again. That's a tough ask.
So before we move on to the Indiana-Oregon game, who do you like tonight?
I like the Canes. I like Miami. I like Cristobal's growth, man, as a coach. It's been fun to watch, man. Like, he's gone from a guy that, wanted it a certain way and kind of would get it a certain way at times to now he gets it the way he wants to get it. And it's really fun to see. And I think the physicality, Fletcher, and then that defense, the ability to make some plays. And Keontae Scott, in the slot, like, you got Bain, you got Mesidor, and then you got Scott, and you got other guys in the back end of that secondary that really do a good job, that make plays. So what they're going to do is they're going to get a takeaway. Like, they're going to force Trinidad into a mistake, and then I think they can play a little bit of bully ball, and Miami wins a close one.
All right, so if the Canes take it tonight, they'll be looking to face the winner of the rematch, Indiana and Oregon, coming up tomorrow in the Peach Bowl here. The Hoosiers fresh off plucking the wings off Alabama and the Crimson Tide here. How does Oregon try and reverse course from what we saw in Eugene earlier this season?
Well, this is, okay, so you've seen Alabama and Oklahoma rematch. Alabama won. You've seen Georgia and Ole Miss rematch. Ole Miss won. I want to be the loser in the rematch, right? Like, I want to be the guy that can call my team to the carpet and be like, this is what you didn't do. And what Oregon could not do is block Indiana up front. Like, they had a hard time stopping their front. And Dante Moore got sacked 5 times. Dante Moore got harassed. He turned the football over. They scored on a pick 6. Like that was one of the touchdowns that Oregon got. It was not pretty, and Indiana won the fourth quarter. And I think that if I'm landing, I'm pointing to that, right? Like I want to point out all the things that they got us there with this physically. But the rematch is going to be really, really fun. When you watch both of these squads, here's what's crazy. The first time they played, Oregon didn't know who they were offensively. Like what I saw last week was Oregon growth against Texas Tech. Because y'all know that's some gam. That's some grown ace man up front for Texas Tech. Like those are adults. Those are some bad mother shut your mouth. And you ain't going to line up and pound them, which is what Oregon wants to do. Oregon wants to pound you and then play action and take shots. I think what Dante Moore has realized throughout the season and last week in particular, that run to the play action, middle of the field, easy throws, move the sticks, use their tempo. Like, here's what's nuts. When you look at this matchup, and you guys have watched these two teams all year long, when I say name the best receivers in this game, you're going to name all Indiana receivers. You're going to name Surratt. You're going to name Cooper. You're going to name Becker, who has balled out. Who's this big, tall, light-skinned guy that can get down the field and now run by people and make plays? Like, that ain't normal. What are we doing here? But I think what Oregon's learned, man, their youth at wide receiver, their injuries at wide receiver, they're more of a 12 personnel team now. Like, they're playing with two tight ends with Johnson and Sadiq, and they're using those weapons. So can Dante Moore be very patient and take the easy things? He's a dude that there's a reason they're talking about him being the first pick in the NFL draft. That dude can throw it through a car wash and not get it wet. Flatliner, he wants to make big plays. Indiana is not going to let you do that. So can you be more patient and work your tight ends? Use your running backs over the middle of the field. Can they run the football a little bit more aggressively? But Dan Lanning, you know him, guys. Fuming at the mouth, like froth over here. He's got a lot to point to in this rematch because they got beat physically at the lines of scrimmage, and that doesn't happen very often with Dan Lanning and company.
So going to the next level, these two quarterbacks are projected to be picks 1 and 2. Which quarterback do you think looks better going to the NFL?
NFL purposes, you're probably going to go with Dante Moore. If you ask me who I wanted to play this game tomorrow night, it's absolutely Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza, I like Mendoza's temperament. I like his leadership. I like his savvy. He knows when to throw the football away. He's enormous. Like that dude's 6'5", like 235, and I bet you he runs 4.6. Like so. When you do get there, getting him on the ground is a difficult proposition. Now, I love when he throws in time and rhythm. He can throw it at any part of the field. He's got more than enough arm. I would say that you don't see him, go through 1, 2, 3 and make the super asinine throws that make you go, holy cow. Now, Dante Moore makes a couple throws that you're like, why would you do that? Like, that dude throws it through a window sometimes. Like, you're like, that window is tight. The Iowa game, late in the game, they got to have a field goal to go win this thing. He threw that ball in a slot that was this big, 30 yards down the field. Like, so you see the more, it's effortless. That thing comes out of his hands. It's so smooth. He's not the athlete. Both of them, though, flatliners. Both of them made of all the right stuff. I think Mendoza's more of a tank. And does it that way, and does it with great coaching and seeing matchups and using his brain. Where I think Dante Moore physically has a lot more that you go, wow, okay, that's different coming off of his hand.
It's going to be incredible to watch a matchup like that. Said potential 2 top picks in the NFL draft. Great games all weekend, and it gets started tonight. See Ball, Get Ball is the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and Saturday mornings here on FanDuel Sports Network. David, always appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Golic. It's good to see y'all.
Thanks, David.
Good to see you too, man. I'd like, honestly, that's a way of framing that matchup that I don't feel like we've capitalized near as much as a sport as we should. The fact that you might have the 2 top NFL quarterbacks playing in the same game there. We saw them play earlier this season, and I think in all of this, what's going to be so interesting right now, the favorites in both games, Indiana in the Peach Bowl, Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. If we do get a matchup of those teams, you want to talk about different styles making the fights, right? One where Carson Beck is tasked with going out there and being the game manager behind that offensive line. The other where Fernando Mendoza is the ultimate signal caller and gunslinger behind that offensive line. And then defensively, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, that defense that makes things really simple because of how physical they are, versus an Indiana defense that reminds me of Mike McDonald's defense in the NFL, where they're going to try and make you earn it from the neck up each and every snap in addition to playing physically. Is tantalizing to think about, but we'll see if Ole Miss and Oregon have something to say about that.
Yeah, I'll obviously we're going to break down the Indiana-Oregon game tomorrow, but I love the analogy David gave for Miami and Mississippi, that Miami's like Mike Tyson in the ring and Mississippi's like Floyd Mayweather. I agree with that. I mean, Miami wants to physically pound you and Mississippi wants to absolutely wear you out. It'll be very interesting. Close game, middle of the fourth quarter. Who's been more effective in that realm?
We'll get you our pick for this game coming up here on the. Actually, you know what? Let's do it now, Dad. Who are you picking in this game? I'm going to pick Miami in this one. I think that Ole Miss can keep it close. I wouldn't be shocked if they win it. They could. I think Miami probably will.
Mississippi definitely could win it, but I'm going with Miami. Both lines of scrimmage, a tank for a running back, defense, running attack, just a good enough passing attack with a great athletic freshman wide receiver. I like Miami to move to the title game.
All right, well, with that in mind, let's take it from college to the pros. Coming up next, we talked about two potential NFL-bound quarterbacks. Let's see who the Raiders might be in the market for and where they go from here in rebuilding this once proud franchise. Next on Golic and Golic. As we wrap up here on Golic and Golic, we will get to a delicious, delectable, and sud-filled fourth and Golic here shortly. But talking about those two great quarterbacks that we have coming up in the playoff game tomorrow night, and Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza, both, I think we're in for a long spring of trying to dissect and figure out which of those is going to go number one overall. Two, the Las Vegas Raiders, who have some big questions on their hands now, and we've talked so much about this coaching cycle, the jobs that are open now, 8 in total after Mike McDaniel fired by the Miami Dolphins today. And the Raiders, while there are a lot of flaws on this team, do hold the distinction of the number one pick. So, Dad, for this team going forward, more important, nailing that number one pick or finding the right coach to go and mold whoever that ends up being?
Oh, definitely nailing the number one pick. If you get a quarterback, as I've talked about for years, it's the old Belichick Brady thing. They're both obviously Hall of Famers, but I always put more stock in a player has to execute on the field. A player can ruin a good game plan, or a great player can make a bad game plan great. So I always think that the player's execution on the field gets a higher percentage than what the coach does. So, if you don't get the right coach, but you get the right quarterback's going to be there. You can change coaches. I know it's not the greatest thing in the world, but a great quarterback, a franchise quarterback, will overcome that.
Well, I just for argument's sake, I'll disagree some. Like, have not we seen a rich history of quarterbacks a la Trevor Lawrence who go to a franchise with a poor fitted head coach that have to wander around in the desert 40 days and 40 nights until they find their Liam Cohen? Like, I wonder if around the league, especially because right now it feels like outside of a few select quarterbacks, we don't really have a lot of guys that feel like bootstrappers, right? And certainly Mendoza and Dante Moore are both great, but I don't think any of them are in that tax bracket of the Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck mold of insane talents coming out of school. So for the Raiders, given where you've been, right, with what's gone on with Antonio Pierce there trying to succeed, and then Pete Carroll and that failure after a year, like, I really think you've got to go and try and smooth the waters there so that you can start to build that environment with John Spytek for whoever is going to be under center for you with a roster around it that's already got some compelling young pieces.
Yeah, I would listen. That's fine. We can disagree, but if you're talking about a true franchise quarterback, a quarterback that's going to be there for a decade, and eventually, after maybe working through a coach, become a great quarterback, I would still say quarterback is the most important position on the field and probably the most important person in an organization.
Well, the most important segment on this show is the one we're about to do right now. It's Fourth and Golic, and I hope everyone came hungry for this one here because we set you up for two of the last stories of our day here. We start with Stadium Eats here. Thanks to the folks at Levi Restaurants at the Peach Bowl. They have released a 2-foot dueling brisket sandwich here. Each half of the sandwich represents Indiana and Oregon football. Indiana's half on the left, brisket piled high, topped with coleslaw, tangy pickled onions, and finished with a cherry bourbon barbecue sauce. Oregon's half on the right side, tender brisket piled with crisp pickles, finished with a decadent brown sugar barbecue sauce. It is $35 in all. Are you finishing that, and which side do you like more?
That's $35 well spent. Is right there. I don't know which side. I mean, I'm a Midwestern guy. I would think I would go for the Midwestern food side, but that Oregon side sounded great. I'd probably need about 3 beers to finish that, and I would be absolutely golden.
I was going to say, coming off a tailgate, a little bit buzzed and a little bit hungry. Give me the Indiana half of that. Love a pickled onion in the mix. I think that sandwich looks like it's going to be spread all over some Midwest laps in that stadium.
Wow.
Let's finish this day up, though, celebrating a day that I know is near and dear to Mike Golic Sr.'s heart. It's National Bubble Bath Day out there for all the enthusiasts. And my father, a.k.a. Tub Daddy, the failed OnlyFans page that he wanted to start to try and capitalize on your bath habit. My whole family, myself included, loves baths. But, Dad, this is where you get all your watching done on Netflix, things like that. This is really your safe space.
Yeah, it really is. Your mother draws a bath, she takes a bath, and then I get in her bath water. And I take my iPad and I watch my shows while I'm in there. It's absolutely the best, most relaxing thing of the day.
I was going to let it slide this time and not bring up your deep, dark secret that you take a bath in retread bath water, that you're bathing in my mom's soup.
I don't care.
You should. You should.
I don't care.
Maybe we'll be back tomorrow here on Golic and Golic. God help us all. Thanks for watching. For more Golic and Golic clips, make sure you subscribe to the FanDuel Sports Network YouTube channel.